This program is brought to you by QBird, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ+ news and community information. To learn more about QBird, check out their website at qberg.com. That's QBURGH.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. Thousands of people gathered around near the Stonewall Monument in New York City's Christopher Park Friday afternoon to protest the National Park Service removing all mentions of transgender and queer people from the webpage for the monument commemorating the 1969 Stonewall Riots. The NPS did this to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order prohibiting any official recognition of transgender people within U.S. departments, agencies, and workforces. Many social media commenters were baffled when the National Park Service removed all mention of the initialism LGBTQ+ and replaced it with LGB, and removed all references to the transgender figures like Zazunova, who is now being described on the website simply as a Black woman instead of her previous designation as a Black transgender woman. The outrage from this action sparked a demonstration near the memorial scheduled for Valentine's Day at 12 noon local time. An estimated 1,000 protesters assembled at the Stonewall Monument, with the crowd continuing to grow well beyond noon, according to HuffPost reporter Matt Shuam. The Stonewall Inn had made a statement before the march. In their official statement, they said the Stonewall Inn and the Stonewall Inn Gives Back initiative are outraged and appalled by the recent removal of the word transgender from the Stonewall National Monument page on the National Park Service website. This blatant act of erasure not only distorts the truth of our history, but it also dishonors the immense contributions of transgender individuals, especially transgender women of color, who were at the forefront of the Stonewall riots and the broader fight for LGBTQ+ rights. In other news, European leaders gathered in Paris Monday for emergency talks on how to react to the U.S. diplomatic blitz on Ukraine, which has thrown a once solid alliance into turmoil and left the Europeans questioning the reliability of their key transatlantic partner. Shortly before the meeting, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump, but Macron's office would not disclose details about the 20-minute discussion. Leaders of Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, Denmark, and the European Union arrived at the Élysée Palace for talks on Europe's security quandary. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is also attending. Last week, top U.S. officials from the Trump administration made their first visit to Europe, leaving the impression that Washington was ready to embrace the Kremlin, while it cold-shouldered many of its age-old European allies. Despite belligerent warnings for months ahead of Donald Trump's re-election as U.S. president, leaders hoped somehow that Trump would stand shoulder to shoulder with Europe in opposing Russia's war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the continent would finally start to beef up its defenses and become less reliant on American firepower. But a flurry of speeches by Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth last week questioned both Europe's security commitments and its fundamental democratic principles. Macron said their stinging rebukes and threats of non-cooperation in the face of military danger felt like a shock to the system. The tipping point came when Trump decided to upend years of U.S. policy by holding talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in hopes of ending the Russian-Ukraine war. Then, Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia on Saturday all but ruled out the inclusion of other Europeans in any Ukraine peace talks. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock called the weak and existential moment where Europe has to stand up. That's where Macron hopes to step in with Monday's meeting. Ever since World War II, the United States and Western European nations have basically moved in lockstep as they confronted the Soviet Union during the Cold War, right up to the increasingly aggressive actions of current-day Russia close to its borders. Even if there had long been U.S. complaints about the reluctance of many European NATO nations to step up their defense efforts, they never boiled up to the political surface as they have over the past days. French officials said no firm announcements are expected beyond a show of unity. More talks, however, are expected at the broader EU level, they said. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. If you watch our videos on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the PEP Radio channel. That's the news at this hour. Now back to more music on PEP Radio.